You think success comes from working harder, pushing longer, and never stopping. That's what most people believe, and that's exactly why most people burn out before they ever reach their full potential. The truth is shocking. Your greatest breakthroughs don't come when you're busy, they come when you're still. When you stop running, when you dare to do nothing, your mind finally wakes up. It's in those quiet moments that your genius unlocks. Look at the world's top innovators: Einstein, Newton, Da Vinci. None of them discovered their best ideas in a meeting room or during a 14-hour workday. Einstein once said he got his greatest insights while playing the violin. Newton, under an apple tree, doing absolutely nothing. Da Vinci would wander for hours, staring at clouds, just thinking. What they all understood is this: rest is not the opposite of productivity, it's the foundation of it. When you're constantly in motion, your brain has no space to breathe. You drown in noise, in notifications, in endless tasks. But when you allow yourself to pause, something powerful happens. Your subconscious takes over. It connects the dots you missed. It solves problems while you rest. Creativity isn't forced, it's released. You don't summon genius by grinding harder. You invite it by stepping back. Think about your own life. How many times have you solved a problem in the shower, on a walk, or lying in bed just before sleep? That's not coincidence. That's your brain working at its best. When you finally stop trying so hard. The world conditions us to believe that if we're not moving, we're falling behind. But the masters know the secret: strategic idleness is power. True focus requires recovery. Inspiration demands silence. So the next time you feel stuck, don't double your effort, double your stillness. Sit down, breathe, let go. It's in the pause between actions where your mind gathers its strength. Remember this: doing nothing isn't laziness, it's leadership over your own energy. It's how visionaries rise above the noise and create what others can't even imagine. The secret power of doing nothing is not about escaping life, it's about returning to it with 10 times more clarity, creativity, and purpose. ChatGPT said, "Stillness fuels genius because in a world obsessed with motion, silence becomes your ultimate advantage." We live in an era where people confuse activity with achievement. They rush from one task to another, fill their calendars, drown in emails, and mistake exhaustion for progress. But brilliance doesn't thrive in chaos, it thrives in calm. True creativity, deep insight, and bold innovation arise when the mind is allowed to slow down, when it's free from the constant noise of doing. The greatest minds in history understood this truth long before science could explain it. Einstein often said that imagination was more important than knowledge. And when did his imagination flourish? Not in the laboratory surrounded by equations, but during quiet walks and moments of solitude. He allowed his thoughts to wander, to drift, to collide freely. Those seemingly idle moments were the fertile soil in which his theories were born. Stillness was not his escape, it was his method. When he stopped forcing answers, the answers came to him. The same pattern repeats across history. Isaac Newton, during the plague years, retreated to the countryside. He wasn't in a lab, he wasn't chasing results. He was simply thinking, reflecting, and observing. It was during that time of isolation, when the world was silent, that he saw an apple fall and began to question why. That quiet observation changed physics forever. Modern neuroscience supports what these visionaries intuitively knew. When you stop consciously focusing on tasks, your brain doesn't shut off. Instead, a powerful system called the default mode network activates. It's the brain's creative engine, the part that connects seemingly unrelated ideas, forms new patterns, and gives birth to insight. When you're relaxed, walking, or even daydreaming, your mind is silently solving problems in the background. It's as if the genius inside you finally has space to breathe. But when you fill every second of your day with noise and distraction, that system never switches on. You suffocate your creativity by never allowing it to roam free. Stillness isn't about doing nothing for the sake of laziness. It's about giving your mind permission to operate at a higher level. It's about trusting that clarity doesn't always come from effort, but from awareness. When you're still, you start noticing the patterns hidden beneath your busy thoughts. You start to see the world differently. Suddenly, an idea that seemed impossible yesterday becomes obvious today. Your intuition sharpens, your perception deepens, and your decision-making becomes far more precise. Great leaders, artists, and innovators all share this one trait: they protect their moments of stillness. They know that genius requires space. Think of it like sharpening a blade. If you keep using the knife without pause, it dulls. No matter how strong or skillful you are, a dull blade cannot cut cleanly. Stillness is the sharpening stone for your mind. It hones your focus, renews your energy, and makes your thoughts razor sharp. When you take time to be still, to meditate, walk in silence, or simply breathe, you aren't wasting time. You're preparing your inner instrument for high performance. You're allowing your mind to operate from clarity, not chaos. But here's the paradox: being still is one of the hardest things to do in the modern world. We've been conditioned to fear silence. The moment we pause, we reach for our phones, check a message, open a video, or scroll endlessly. We crave stimulation because we're addicted to doing. Yet the very act of constant doing robs us of depth. We become reactive instead of creative. The mind that never rests becomes shallow. It can only repeat, not reinvent. To unlock your genius, you must break that pattern. You must learn to value stillness as much as action. When you sit in stillness, the first thing you'll notice is discomfort. Your brain will resist. It will scream to be busy. But if you stay with it, something extraordinary happens. Beneath the noise, you begin to hear your true thoughts, the ones drowned out by routine and responsibility. You reconnect with your curiosity, your intuition, your sense of wonder. And that's where genius lives. Every great breakthrough begins with a mind quiet enough to listen. The secret is not in working harder, but in thinking deeper. And deep thinking requires stillness. The most creative people in the world understand that their best ideas don't arrive when they're staring at a screen. They come when they walk away from it. They let their thoughts wander, they embrace boredom, they give their subconscious permission to play. That's when the magic happens. Stillness fuels genius because it reconnects you with your own inner intelligence. It allows you to hear the whispers of ideas waiting to be born. It gives you the distance to see solutions clearly and the strength to act with conviction. Genius isn't about knowing more, it's about seeing differently. And to see differently, you must first be still enough to look. ChatGPT said rest is strategy, not weakness, because real performance isn't about how much you can do. It's about how effectively you can do it. The myth of endless hustle has trapped millions into believing that stopping means losing. But in truth, rest is what separates the exhausted from the exceptional. It's what allows the mind and body to regenerate, recalibrate, and return sharper than before. The greatest achievers in history were not those who worked every hour of the day. They were the ones who understood when to stop, when to step back, and when to recharge. When you rest, you're not quitting the game, you're preparing to win it. Look at top athletes, they train hard, yes, but they also know that recovery days are non-negotiable. Why? Because growth happens during recovery. Muscles rebuild, focus returns, and energy resets. The same principle applies to mental and creative performance. When you rest strategically, you allow your brain to organize information, connect new ideas, and strengthen neural pathways. It's like sharpening your mental blade before the next big strike. Without rest, you're simply hacking away with a dull edge, mistaking fatigue for dedication. The modern world glorifies burnout as a badge of honor. People brag about sleepless nights and 80-hour work weeks, thinking it proves their commitment. But what it really proves is a lack of strategy. Because fatigue doesn't lead to greatness. It leads to mistakes, poor judgment, and lost creativity. The brain's ability to focus and innovate collapses under constant pressure. That's why the most successful entrepreneurs, creators, and leaders schedule their rest as carefully as their work. They understand that rest isn't time lost, it's time invested. Think of your mind like a high-performance engine. You can push it hard, but without cool down periods, it overheats and breaks down. Rest is your built-in cooling system. It protects your clarity, your energy, and your emotional balance. It ensures that when you move with power. Without it, even the most talented people become mediocre. Rest is the moment when the subconscious takes control, when your brain continues solving problems and generating insights while you're not even aware of it. That's why you often wake up with a new idea or solution you couldn't find the day before. Some of history's most productive minds made rest part of their process. Winston Churchill famously took naps every day during World War II, saying it gave him 2 days in one. Salvador Dali would nap holding a spoon, so that when it fell, the noise would wake him up just as he entered the dream state, because he knew that space between wakefulness and sleep was where inspiration lived. They weren't lazy, they were strategic. Rest is not about doing nothing, it's about doing the right thing at the right time. It's a decision to protect your energy for what truly matters. It's the discipline of not wasting yourself on constant motion, but using your strength with precision. The people who achieve lasting success don't chase every moment, they master their rhythm. They know that rest is not retreat, it's renewal. It's the art of coming back stronger, clearer, and unstoppable. Stop forcing inspiration, because the more you chase it, the further it runs. Inspiration is not a machine you can switch on with pressure. It's a living force that appears when your mind is open, not when it's overwhelmed. The world constantly tells you to grind, to push harder, to never stop, as if creativity can be commanded on demand. But real inspiration is never born in the middle of noise and stress. It arrives in moments of calm, curiosity, and surrender. The greatest breakthroughs often come when you stop trying so desperately to make them happen. When you force inspiration, you create tension. You stare at the blank page, the empty screen, or the unmade decision, and the more you try to pull an idea out of thin air, the tighter your mind becomes. Creativity doesn't thrive under pressure, it suffocates under it. Think of your mind like a clenched fist. When it's tight, nothing can enter or flow through. But when it relaxes, when it opens, ideas start to move again. You begin to see connections you couldn't see before. That's why so many great ideas appear when you're doing something ordinary. Taking a walk, driving, showering, or just daydreaming. It's not magic, it's your brain finally having room to think freely. Inspiration needs space, not struggle. The subconscious mind is constantly processing information, forming patterns, and linking ideas in the background. But it can only do that if you give it silence. When you keep forcing yourself to come up with something, you block that natural process. The most productive people in the world don't sit around waiting for lightning to strike. They create the right conditions for it to appear. They rest, they play, they think, and then they allow. They understand that great ideas are not chased, they are caught when the mind is ready. Take the example of Archimedes. He struggled for days trying to find a way to measure the volume of irregular objects. The harder he tried, the more frustrated he became. But when he finally stepped away, when he relaxed in the bath, he saw the water rise and suddenly understood displacement. Eureka wasn't the result of effort, it was the reward of letting go. The same thing happened with Paul McCartney. He didn't write yesterday by sitting at a piano for hours. The melody came to him in a dream. Inspiration doesn't need to be forced, it needs to be invited. We live in a culture that celebrates control, but inspiration doesn't obey control. It responds to freedom. When you release the pressure to perform, you enter a mental state psychologists call flow, where creativity feels effortless and ideas come naturally. Forcing kills flow. Allowing creates it. The paradox is that when you stop demanding brilliance, brilliance appears. When you stop clinging to results, results emerge. The secret to unlocking inspiration is not in doing more. It's in trusting more. It's in giving your mind permission to breathe, to wonder, to play, and to discover on its own terms. Because when you stop forcing inspiration, you don't lose your power, you finally discover it. Doing nothing is doing something powerful because stillness itself is an action, a deliberate choice to pause, to reset, and to rise above the noise. In a culture that worships constant motion, it feels almost rebellious to stop. But that pause is not emptiness, it's power gathering, it's the space where clarity forms, where the mind recharges, and where your true direction reveals itself. The people who learn to master stillness don't fall behind. They move ahead with precision while everyone else wastes energy running in circles. Doing nothing doesn't mean you're lazy or unmotivated. It means you're choosing awareness over automatic motion. When you stop, you give yourself a chance to see the bigger picture. Most people are so busy reacting that they never create. They jump from one task to another, always busy but rarely effective. The real achievers, the true creators, know when to act and when to step back. That step back is the difference between chaos and strategy, between effort and impact. By doing nothing intentionally, you allow your mind to recalibrate and refocus on what truly matters. Think of nature, it never forces growth. The seasons of rest are as vital as the seasons of bloom. A field must lie fallow to regain its strength. A seed must sit in the dark before it breaks through the soil. The same is true for you. Your creativity, your energy, your intuition, they all need moments of stillness to regenerate. Doing nothing gives your inner resources the space to rebuild. It's not wasted time, it's investment time. It's when the invisible work happens, the processing, the healing, the aligning. When you're constantly active, you live in reaction mode. But when you embrace stillness, you shift into creation mode. You stop chasing opportunities and start attracting them. Your mind becomes sharper, your emotions more stable, your decisions more precise. You start to operate from power instead of panic. Doing nothing gives you control of yourself, and that's the greatest form of power there is. It's what allows you to act with intention instead of impulse. Many of the most successful leaders and thinkers in history practiced this art. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, would take moments of silence daily to reflect and center his mind before making decisions that affected millions. He understood that inaction at the right moment was wiser than blind action. Similarly, modern CEOs often take thinking days where they step away from meetings and distractions to simply reflect. They're not escaping work, they're doing the most important part of it, Thinking clearly. Doing nothing is powerful because it realigns you with yourself. It reminds you that your value isn't measured by constant motion, but by the quality of your presence. In that quiet space, creativity awakens, energy renews, and vision returns. It's the moment when you stop pushing against life and start moving with it. The power of doing nothing lies in understanding that stillness is not the absence of progress, it's the birthplace of it.